Templeton Board of Select meeting Tuesday, October 11th, 2016, here at 6:32. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We had a chance to look at the minutes for 9/12, 9/26, and 10/3. We'll do one at a time.
Yeah, I make a motion to approve the minutes for Monday, September 12th, 2016, as written.
I have a motion of a second.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? I see none. John?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. A motion for 9/26.
I make a motion to approve the minutes for Monday, September 26th, 2016, as written.
I have a motion, I have a second.
Second.
I have a second. Any other discussion? I see none. John?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well.
And I make a motion to approve the minutes for Monday, October 3rd, 2016, as written.
I have a second.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? I see none. John?
Abstain.
Diane?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Going to new business, town administrator profile. Cara?
This is typical of a recruiting firm to develop a profile of the community, a profile of the position, and speak to the challenges that a incoming administrator would face and the particular skills that the community would be best served by. There is one possible error in it. Be referred to the CMRPC, but I think you all are associated with the Massachusetts Regional Planning Commission. So I would, with that in mind, ask that the board approve the publication of this profile in substantially the form as presented, subject to correction of any minor typographical or factual errors such as what I've just spoken to, Mr. Chairman. And
Okay.
administrator candidates do look at these things. I can
It's
tell
well
you
written.
that.
Okay.
I make a motion to approve the Templeton Town Administrator profile with any changes that need to be made for clarification and accuracy.
Okay, I have a motion, I have a second.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any discussion concerning this profile?
Let's see that.
I see none. John?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Action appointment to the Town Administrator Screening Committee. As we discussed, we're all going to provide at least one name for the screening committee. Have we done that?
No, I think we were going to do that at this meeting.
Okay.
And I'll say that,
Do you have a name in mind?
yeah,
Okay.
I already asked. I asked the current Narragansett, Chris Cassavant, the superintendent, and he is very excited about, and he said, yes, he would love to do that.
Awesome. That's one. Anybody else?
Yep, I've talked to Brian Tangway, and he is interested also.
Tangway?
Yep.
Okay,
Runs the Historical Society.
great.
He's got his own business.
Awesome. And I asked Rich, the building inspector, to be on it, and he said yes, he would also be on it. And I don't know who Julie had in mind. Did you have anybody in mind, John?
I spoke with John Driscoll, manager of the Light Department.
Yep.
And he agreed to do it also.
Fantastic. Okay. Well, we'll put these names in and hopefully, we can approve this now, can't we? As a committee? Or do we have to wait like another meeting?
No, you can name it tonight and authorize Julie to make her appointment known to Holly, and we'll draw the appointment papers up for you all to sign over the next week or so that they can get sworn in, and Richard knows who he's working with.
Yes. Does everybody feel comfortable with that, or do you want to wait?
No, I feel, well, we already voted for the screening committee, so it's just to appoint these people. Okay, so I make a motion to appoint John Driscoll, Chris Cassavant, Brian Tangway, Richard Hanks, and a name to be determined and given to Holly for the town administrator screening committee.
With an end date?
I'm sorry?
The motion should mention by Julie, who's giving extra name.
I think I said in a name to be given by Julie to
Okay.
Holly.
Okay, thank
I
you.
said that right?
You did.
Okay.
You did.
Sorry.
That's
You
okay.
did. You did.
Okay.
And obviously, the termination of that will be at the hiring of the new town administrator.
Yeah.
Okay, I have a motion. I have a second.
Second.
Okay, a motion and a second to appoint these individuals. Any other discussion? I see none. John?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. So just waiting for Julie's name. Okay. Expand Economic Development Committee to 5 and appoint new member. That was something I put on there. I am on the Economic Development Committee, and we are doing a lot of great things. In fact, more to follow and to see probably at the next meeting. We're drafting up an economics development plan for the town of Templeton, with all the business areas in town, et cetera. But we've noticed that the amount of people on that committee, it's just not enough to make the requirements and that we need to make, with obviously trying to bring new business into the community. So what I would like to, right now it's at a 3-person committee. I'd like it to make it a 5-person committee. And at the same time, I'd like to appoint Steve Castle as one of the members on that committee as well, as a new member to the Economic Development Committee. Does anybody
Who
else
are
have any
the other
discussion?
3 members?
Glenn Eaton, myself,
Rich Curtis.
Rich Curtis, yeah, I couldn't think of his name. We've all been duly sworn in, obviously bringing Steve, and I think is going to be a great asset.
Who's the other person?
Rich Curtis, myself, Mr. Eaton,
And then Steve Cass.
yes. And we'll have 1 vacancy, which
And that
we're
will
trying
be
to fill.
posted on the
Yes.
website.
Yes.
And I thought the town administrator was on that economic development committee.
I'm not sure.
Yeah.
If you mean Mr.
I
Marco in the
had-
past? It might have been Mr. Marco in the past, I'm not sure.
okay.
I
Not
mean,
that
we've gotten
part
more
needs
done in the
anything
last
else.
few meetings that we've had.
I think another person at large is a good idea. I was just saying,
Yeah.
I had a couple of meetings, but it was always just ended up being me and Bob.
No, it's really,
It's really hard to get stuff done with 2 or 3 people.
it
so.
is. That's why we want to expand it to 5, because I think we get more bang for the buck, so to speak.
Okay, so I make a motion to appoint Steve Castle to the Economic Development Committee
Yeah, expand it to 5 members.
and expand it to 5 members, sorry.
That's okay. Okay, I have a motion to expand to 5 members, and obviously appointing Mr. Castle. Do I have a second?
Second.
Oh, John, second. Great. Any other discussion concerning the Economic Development Committee? I see none. John?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. And like
So
I s-
when would that be posted on the website?
Holly, can we get that posted tomorrow? Thank you. Okay, audit staff report. This is Mr. Tenzini.
Sure. As we spoke to you a month ago, we gave you the list of documents that we're underway in producing. I'm pleased to report to you tonight, based upon what we're calling the audit team, we have reduced the 85 items to roughly 60, and I think when we meet tomorrow, we'll have another number of those that we can take off the list, or that we will not be producing because of the difficulty with putting them together. And as we discussed, as we get closer to 16, we'll make different decisions about how much staff time to pour into doing these things. So we've given you a list of which items we've gotten complete and which remain outstanding, and we meet this week to update that. Secondly, we did talk with Matt Hunt at Clifton, Larson, and Allen, CLA, and talk with 4 other firms about the potential of them getting in at an earlier date and working within our resources. So I'm going to be referring to a second memo, which I put on your desk here. Apologies, but I think that conference call didn't happen till about 1 o'clock this afternoon. So in simplest terms, Clifton Larson has indicated they can get in here earlier. Once we stressed upon them the critical nature of getting this completed, they can be in here, I think it was December 5. Does that sound right? So that was good news. However, doing the out years within our resources, you had budgeted $28,000 a year. They're estimating their fee to be in the $40,000 to $45,000 range. So I've been using 42.5. That means that they'd be somewhere around 132.5, give or take, within our $84,000. Matt asked today if he could have 48 hours to meet with his principals to determine whether or not they could get into our number. He did not give me a firm answer today. I then asked him if he thought we were truly a good fit, and he did, from a standpoint of they've put a lot of front-end work into getting ready to do this, and he thought they now had some familiarity with the community. We talked about if we decided that the out years didn't make sense for them financially, would they be willing to release us from the 13 engagement letter? And again, he asked for that 24 to 48 hours to give me a definitive answer. Depending upon the answer to that, and we've given you what we think are 3 options that make some sense. If Clifton Larson will not release us from the FY13 engagement letter, I don't think you have any choice but to proceed with that as a matter of good faith, keeping our word to an entity that we've contracted with. He kind of downplayed it a little bit. Well, it's not legally blinding, really. I don't know exactly. I've never really had to do this before, but I think the community keeping its word to a vendor is important.
Yes.
From a personal perspective. So if CLA will not release us from the FY13 engagement letter, I think it's done. We proceed with them, and then Kelly freshens the proposals up from these other firms for 14, 15 for the out years. If CLA will do the FY13, 14, and 15, I think that's probably as far as I'm going to push them for getting their $42,500 a year down to 28. Then I think we're agreed we should just go ahead and have them do the package of those 3 years. If CLA will release us from our engagement letter, then I think we're back to the initial memo dated October 5. My apologies. I don't mean to push the month along faster than it will otherwise. That you make a decision based upon the review of the several audit firms and Kelly's recommendation. I think what we're really looking for, this is your decision, this is not a staff decision. The audit is management's view upon the staff. But I think that in the interest of time, truthfully, the best course of action is if the board would consider delegating the final decision, subject to you agreeing on a firm. Under number 3, is that the chairman had the flexibility, once he knows which one of those 3 options the ball has kind of landed in, to proceed as opposed to waiting for 2 more weeks. I hope that makes some sense, and happy to answer questions in terms of meeting with the firms. Kelly did all that, so I'd like to defer questions about the firms and our meetings with them to Kelly.
Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Kelly,
Yes.
how were the responses with the other organizations, the audit companies, the other 2 or 3 that you talked to?
They were very open to taking on, the full run of 13 through 17. They have all agreed to do it for the 28,000 each year that we have slated for.
Right.
One of the audit firms I contacted, as you can see in the memo, wasn't even interested in dealing with Templeton from what they had heard, around the block.
Understood.
And of all of the firms I met with, the one that I felt was the best fit was Roselli. And the reason I said that is they are the audit firm that currently does Phillipston. They also do Narragansett. If they would do Templeton, they would have the full realm of our 3 intertwined communities. They are also the audit firm that is working on Winchendon, through these issues. So they are very familiar with dealing with financials that are not of impeccable state.
Right.
They're very familiar working on that. The other thing is that he could start next week. He could come here, he could, so the list that we have now, that, 100 or whatever that list we started with, his is like a 2-page document. We could then start working with him next week, getting all of that there, and they could be out here the first part of December to start delving into 13, getting it finished, and then moving right into 14. One of the challenges with Clifton Larson, if they don't let us out of this letter, is in order for another audit firm to take on 14, Clifton Larson has to be totally completed. So you have to have your audit completely finished, they're done, their exit, they're gone, now we bring in 14. If they let us out of the letter and will let us, get to someone new, as they're finishing up 13, they can start doing work on 14 and keep rolling forward. That will take a lot of time out of the picture that we'll have to wait for with Clifton Larson.
Understood. And you didn't get a warm fuzzy from Clifton and Larson today?
Actually, I was surprised when he threw on the table, because, what if we were able to do your out years for your 28K? This followed a whole conversation of, do you think you'll be able to find additional resources? What about the FY18? Do you think you'll be able to find additional resources in there? And I was, I hope, fairly firm about, I doubted that would happen. And then he kind of threw on the table this idea about, well, what if we could, do these several years within your budget? And at that point, I think we had to stop and say,
I'm shocked.
well, yeah, we didn't say much of anything.
The silence happened?
Given we've got the FY13 with him, it made sense to say, okay, 24 to 48 hours for you to have that conversation. We owe that to
Will
find
they
out
provide
what
us a
was
new
going
letter
on.
stating
Yeah,
that?
they would provide a new engagement letter.
Okay. To what their scope's going to be as far as the other
Yes.
out years?
Yeah. Now, the challenge with Clifton Larson is the high level of documentation that they're looking for with all these things.
Is that normal? I mean, to an auditor, is it? experience.
You want to speak to it?
I can clarify that with you. When I spoke with Mr. Roselli, he explained to me the difference between their firm and Clifton Larson. Clifton Larson is a national firm, so this office here is just a local office. So when they do our audit, they have to then send that to their parent office to go through it and make sure that they've done every single thing by the letter. Well, when I sat down with Mr. Roselli, the buck stops with him. It's his firm, it's his, so he's coming to do this audit. It's not gonna have to go up the chain to make sure that this office didn't do something they weren't supposed to do, or they missed a step, or, and that's why Clifton Larson is more, you know, A, B, C, D, all the way down the road, where one of the big bonuses I found with Mr. Roselli is that he has done training in the state on bond ratings. So he knows exactly what the bond companies are looking for in an audit. So if he feels, okay, we need A and we can skip to M because this stuff in here really, I mean, we're auditing the numbers, but we don't need all this paperwork for this section. This isn't gonna, you know, spending an extra month trying to pull together all this stuff isn't gonna make a difference. So I felt very comfortable in knowing that the buck stops with him. So there's not that additional level of clarification that will have to take place with the audit.
Okay.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, the difference really is exactly that. With the smaller regional firm, and you've seen the three names, you know, they'll come in and say, okay, who's got the collective bargaining agreements? You hand them the file, they read it, like, yep, okay, fine. They check mark and they copy the page or two or three that they think they need. Whereas Clifton and Larson wants a copy of that because it's being scanned and it's being sent to other offices. So it's the level of documentation. All the other agencies entities look at the same kinds of things, but they'll look at the minutes of the town clerk for town meetings and for your meetings, and they'll say, yep, okay, fine, that's there. Maybe copy the one page, as opposed to Clifton Larson, which would actually like a copy of all the minutes and the town meeting.
I see. Well, I know the list that you provided, I mean, some of the stuff is required for cities, not even for towns. Some of these requirements.
Because
Are they going off like a checklist or something?
right,
Yep.
yeah.
I mean, that's just gonna waste man time, man hours.
Well, I will tell you that on some of these, for instance, you know, for every fiscal year, they want to know what was the outstanding sick leave, vacation, and the value of that. Well, you only have it partway through one year, you don't have it for another year.
Right.
So basically, tomorrow morning, I think we're going to lock in on the decision of, okay, we're going to provide this for fiscal 15 or 16 or 15 and 16.
Right.
For the other years, we're just going to take the slap
Okay.
because of when I look at 16 hours, I have to decide how to best use those staff hours.
Yes,
I'd
John.
be concerned.
I'm sorry.
Well, I just, I
Please take me
think
first.
that, we said that their requests are out of the ordinary. Well, let's be frank here. We're not asking them to do an ordinary audit.
Right.
We're asking them to go into territory that I haven't seen in the 45 years I've been involved in local government.
Understood.
As far as what the accountants require, it's part of the GASB standards. Is it 34, 35, something like that?
With
Carter, for
respect
the
to,
financial statements?
well, there's a whole variety, 34,
Yeah.
45, 47, there's a number of them that we have to try to
45
comply with.
is the post-employment benefits.
Yes.
But the financial statements were in a document that came out much earlier than the post-employment. I think it was 34, but I don't remember as well as I used to.
That's okay. It happens. Yeah, go ahead.
I would be concerned if they do come back and say, yeah, we'll do it for year 28. I mean, that's something like a 40 to 45% price reduction. What's the quality of the staff members you're gonna get when you've just taken a 45% reduction in what your normal charges are? So I would have a little bit of concern if they're willing to suddenly drop the price by, $50,000. Why didn't you do that 3 months ago when we expressed our concern that you were too high? So that's just an observation I have. So I do think we would be better served if we can get out of their engagement letter and go with one of the more regional firms.
I do think you'll get a quality audit out of them, just notwithstanding, a 30% give or take drop in the pricing, because they do have time invested, they have name invested.
Right.
But again, you're gonna get an auditor that could do the work in, 3 weeks, and it takes, this lower level person that doesn't have as much experience, it's gonna take them 3 months.
The
That's what I mean
advantage-
by the quality. Yes,
Right.
we'll end up with a good audit regardless.
Yes.
But is it gonna be in 3 weeks, or is it gonna be in 3 months?
The advantage that Kelly speaks of is, if they did do it, let's say they came back and said, okay, we've found a way to shoehorn these audits into your price. We're gonna write it off as marketing, we're gonna write it off as goodwill. We simply wanna see this through, because I do think that Matt expresses a personal investment at this point in time. The advantage that Kelly points out is if we can roll from 13 to 14 to 15, we're going to get things done much faster. If we have to wait for 13 to be completely finished, vetted, released, published, before we can start anyone on 14, it's simply going to make the process longer. So these are the best options that I think we've come up with in the last couple of weeks here. Sorry they aren't further along, but
How do you feel about the chair making a final decision if we, based on the audit options update, the only thing that's not on here is if Clifton Larson will release us from an engagement letter for FY13. It doesn't really state the name of a firm, but I think that everything that I've looked at, I agree with Kelly's and with Carter's approval of Roselli, Clark and Associates. So I would like some feedback on how you feel about this memo from Carter, and to save time, because we should know in the next couple of days what Clifton Larson's gonna do.
Yeah, so personally, I think that, the chair could make a decision if it's one of these 3 options, and if it's option number 3, it's the Roselli, Clark and Associates.
John?
I agree with that. I agree with that.
And John?
Yeah, I'm essentially in agreement with it. It just, I don't think, we're obviously at a roadblock here until we have a decision with
Clifton Larson.
Clifton Larson.
Right.
Now,
Which-
but if some other option comes up here that's not one of these
Yeah,
3,
we can't.
then
It
we've got
has
to come back and
to
talk
the
about
board.
it again. But as long as it falls into one of these 3 categories, I'd be okay with that.
And, okay, so, let me see, I make a motion for the chairman of the board to make the final decision, so long as it is option 1, option 2, option 3 of this memo with respect to taking on Roselli, Clark and Associates.
I have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion?
I think the motion may be a little more specific as to what memo you're talking about,
Understood.
the date of the memo.
Yep.
I'm sorry, the audit options update of October 11th, 2016 from, to the Board of Selectmen from Carter Terenzini, Town Administrator.
Excellent. Any other discussion? Yes.
Do we know if the letter we're worried about breaching was ever sent to council?
I know that
Reach
answer
the
too.
letter.
I don't understand.
I mean, if we do breach this contract letter,
Yeah.
whatever you want to
Well,
call it.
won't.
well, first and foremost, we're not gonna breach any letter in any contract with
We're not
any
breaching.
type of, we're not gonna breach anything. If Clifton Larson is willing to come in on the 5th of December and manage, 13, 14, and potentially 15, we owe it to that organization based on the conversation that Mr. Markle had with that organization as a good faith thing from the town to that organization. And hopefully they will come down on their rates. But if they're able to release us, whatever decision Clifton and Larson makes this week, then they will then in turn give us we won't give them the letter, they would give us the letter.
Well, yeah, we'd have to work that out technically,
Right.
but it's not our intent to breach
No,
in any fashion.
no. And most of those documents do go to town legal.
Would it be better if I read out loud what the options are? Would you feel a little bit better about what this says? Because it's not a breach. I mean, that would be.
I used the wrong word, but
Okay.
I've heard from the board that we have a letter,
We have an engagement letter.
okay, an engagement letter, call it a contract.
Okay.
If we break that letter's deal,
Mhm.
have we already had council look at it when we signed it, so that we knew what we were getting into
No,
to
we're
begin
not.
with?
We're not going to
It'd
break
be a
it.
mutual.
Yes, council did,
Yes,
council
council-
did
Yeah.
look at
They
that
looked
with
at it.
Mr. Marco
Okay.
prior to the engagement
Have
with.
they
Clifton and
changed
Larson.
anything in that letter, like dates, like they were gonna start in
Yes.
January, they were
Yes.
gonna start in
There was some,
March, and then
yes,
August, now January?
yeah.
If they've changed it.
But the
is-
verbiage in the
is that
memo
the
gives.
same letter we're looking at? I mean, once they change what their end of the bargain, kinda looks like if we wanted to change our end.
Yeah, I
wouldn't
saw
matter
that though. I'll let Carter answer it, but I'm basically, you can go ahead, Mr. Tenzini.
Well, I mean, in simplest terms, they said, we'll audit your books. We said, we're ready. They came. They said, no, you're not. So that doesn't, the fact that we aren't ready doesn't release us from our obligation to continue to use them. So there's no intent to breach the agreement. The question becomes, would you consider releasing us from this engagement letter?
Meaning the company.
Yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah, not us releasing from them.
Right.
Because I think we owe it to that organization for all the work they've done already for 13. But hopefully we'll get more information. So I got a motion and a second. Any other discussion? I see none. John?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Thank you, Kelly. Report on options on filling the fire chief vacancy. Mr. Tenzini?
2 weeks ago, you rescinded your offer of employment to a fire chief candidate due to an inability to come to a mutually satisfactory contractual arrangement. At that time, I asked you for 2 weeks to take a step back and look at options of how best to proceed. At the same time that we were looking at that, we've been looking at the advanced life support, the ALS ambulance service, and financial projections on that to best determine staffing. Given these two issues are out there at the same time, and the cost implications not only of filling the position, but of sustaining the position, we went, and we being interim chief Dennis, Hamill, thank you so much for saving me on that one. And Chief Bennett, from a public safety standpoint, we looked at a variety of options. We've listed those out for you in the most difficult to achieve down to the easiest to achieve. And starting with sharing or regionalizing the chief, we actually, when we spoke with another community, they asked if we would be interested in looking at regionalization. Unifying the town public services under a public safety commissioner. This is not a widely used model, but it has been used in North Adams with a great deal of success since the 1980s and is currently in use in Millville. Re-advertising the position. The question here becomes if you believe you can be more successful in a second recruitment process than you were in the initial recruitment process. In other words, has something changed dramatically in these last 3, 4, 5 months, either in your offering package or out there in the marketplace. Re-interviewing initial candidates, having them come back in to determine if anything has changed to make you feel a little bit more comfortable with the initials. And then the fifth position, making the interim chief permanent and eliminating the full-time deputy. Each has its pluses and minuses. Given the current financial position of the community, to be assured that it can sustain services once it starts down that path, and some time needed yet to finish up the ALS service, I'm asking, should you not decide on this fifth or most easiest option to implement, I'm asking for an additional 4 weeks of time to complete the analysis of the ALS services, for you, Mr. Chairman, and I to meet with the community that has discussed the potential interest in regionalization, and for the staff and to explore and cost out a public safety model as a way of organizing that unit. Be happy to answer any questions that you might have, but those are the best options. In this memo, as with all, was circulated to the members of the team that looked at it. And they were all given an opportunity to, well, they might not agree with everything, to at least make sure it accurately reflected the discussion.
So one question I have on the re-interview initial candidates, would it only be the two that we initially interviewed, or could we go back to the pool, the whole pool of?
The memo's written around re-interviewing the two that you initially interviewed. If
So
you
we couldn't go
choose
back
to
to
do,
the
if you
pool
choose,
that we had.
that's up to you. I leave that to you. I think I've made my
That
position.
would have to be a re-advertisement in-house to go back and re-interview and re-screen individuals that were already screened once, to screen, that we would, they would just circumvent the system a little bit. We would have to re-advertise
you
to an
could-
in-house
you could do an-
position.
You could do an internal posting.
Right, exactly.
Because to re-advertise, I doubt that we would get, I mean, we might get another candidate or two, but I don't think we'd get a significantly different pool.
You might. The larger issue, I think, that we've laid before you, and that I would always lay before you when a vacancy occurs, is this the best organizational structure to deliver those services? I mean, frankly, you cannot continue to deliver the services you currently deliver on the revenue stream you currently enjoy under the current organizational structure. No
That's-
disrespect
Nope.
to anybody.
No, none taken.
Strip it away. That's what it comes down to.
Go ahead, John.
I'm in complete agreement with Carter. Not to disparage anybody or the way things are done now. I just feel that we have to look and see if we can find a way to continue to deliver, or maybe even do better in delivering services. I agree that we have to find a way to do it more efficiently.
And it starts typically with the structure itself, and then it works down from there.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, I have a whole lot more questions than I do answers at this point.
Yeah, same here. I mean, I did look at Millville. I looked at their process as far as doing a public safety model, as far as having a public safety administrator, commissioner, whatever you want to call them, that oversees fire and police. And actually in Millville, it's actually the police chief that oversees fire in Millville, as a public safety director, so to speak. I mean, it seems like a good program and a good product, but, you know, I'm trying to see what's the best option here in this community, and what this community is going to be asking for under the potential restructuring of certain things. But obviously, we need, I have more questions than I have answers to, so I don't know. I think providing more time to you to come up with some more information concerning, and we can always fall back on the re-advertising internally. We did have 2 internal candidates that did apply, and re-interview those individuals. I mean, looking at the, you know, I don't know, I just have more questions than I do answers. Do you have any more, Doug?
Yeah,
Can
no,
you help me with
I
this?
think, you know, exploring what these other options might be is probably worth doing before we make a decision.
I mean, I like to see
And
what
I
the
don't
safety
think,
model would
I
look
mean,
like.
while the current situation may not be perfect, it's working. So I think waiting another 2 or 3 weeks while we research these other options isn't going to, shoot us in the foot.
I do think I'll need the full 4 weeks that I've asked for. I
Okay.
can try to do it in 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
And certainly I'll be happy to give you everything that I can within 2 or 3 weeks, if you'd like.
4 weeks, I think is
I just want to be realistic, Doug, about how much time I need.
Yeah,
So what
I
do you-
didn't
what would
remember
you-
what number you had said.
What would you think he should focus on? As far as, I mean, I don't want him searching like all different options. I mean, is there a couple options here that you want him to specifically focus on? Like regionalization, with other communities, public safety model, meaning you have one chief that oversees both departments, and be clear on if it's a fire chief that oversees the police department, or it's a police chief that oversees the fire department as a public safety director, knowing what his limitation and what his left and right limits are, what's his scope, re-advertising internally. I mean, I would look at,
Yeah, I mean, I personally,
Mhm.
I think the regionalization options might be the things to look at. I'm not a big fan of the public safety commissioner model. It certainly could work. Again, I don't know if that's the best structure for us or not. I'm just not. I don't think it's a super good
Mhm.
model. So, I mean, the things he has listed here, complete the analysis of organizational needs to include the staffing of ALS, and costing the business plan, meet the community. Because you really need to know that his first item there before you can have an intelligent conversation on the second item. And then again, I'm not, the public safety model, I mean, I suppose, we should hear about that, but I'm just not a big fan of that model.
no, I
so.
understand. I mean, again, we're all looking at different options to put on the table for him to at least explore and give us more detail on, so to provide more information for us to make a rational, educated decision on what's the best course of action for this community to go forward. What do you think, Diane?
Well, I think, I agree with Carter's conclusions and recommendations that, I don't think we should leave off any option that he said. If he's willing to do that and it's 4 weeks and we could, I mean, how do we know that a public safety commissioner isn't the best thing for our community? We don't, unless, Carter does it. I'm not really in favor of the, re-advertising, re-interviewing, or making the interim permanent and then eliminating a full-time deputy until we know. And in my opinion, if we're gonna, even consider an option for making the interim permanent, I would like to see his qualifications. So, I mean, that wasn't even explored last time
No.
because he said he didn't want it.
That's correct.
So that leaves, but I think that Carter's conclusions, completion of analysis of organizational needs, including staffing the ALS and cost-wise, and I think that's a great idea.
Yep.
So I would like to, make a motion to move forward with those and let Carter do the work and give him the time to do it.
The 4 weeks?
Yeah.
Yeah, because I think the cost analysis thing gives me perks. because I mean, you're
Now
working
is the
with
time to
Kelly.
explore that.
Yeah, looking at the, high call volumes, low call volumes, busy
A lot of
hours of the
things to
day.
Consider.
Exactly. Okay. All right.
Do you want a motion? Do you just, is that a general
I think
consensus?
it's just a
Is that-
conversation. I don't think we need a motion for this, do we?
Okay.
As long as the record reflects it was the consensus of the board for me to
Is it?
proceed with the
Is it?
recommendations
Yeah, I'm good with
I
it.
mean, we
in the memo. I
need
think
more
that's fine.
information to make a decision.
Right.
Yeah, I'm good with
That's
it.
great. Thanks, Carter.
Thank you, folks.
No, thank you for doing that. That's going to be great. Exploring regionalization opportunities with the town of Hubbardston. Mr. Carter, you had a conversation with Hubbardston?
Sure. This is not the community that suggested regionalization of fire. That was another
Right.
one. But this is one that we identified, so we went down to talk with them. We did that last week. Chief Bennett was with me. And they had their Hubbardston Town Administrator present as well as their police chief. The first item of discussion was the potential for a shared fire chief. And I've explained how this has worked in some other communities, planners, building inspectors, and others. However, the Hubbardston Town Administrator did not believe this was feasible for them at this time. Their chief is a working chief and handling calls and other things, so they feel they'd have to supplement that with a firefighter EMS. And the larger issue is that the chief really doesn't look forward to the administrative tasks perhaps as much as he would have to if we were sharing him collectively. So they just simply didn't feel that that worked for them. In this discussion, also the chief and I had learned that they were not a fully satisfied customer of the Rutland Regional Dispatch Center, so we raised the possibility as to whether or not they might be interested in buying the high-quality services that I think the town of Templeton Communications Center provides. They had some interest. Obviously, we would need to know that the signal strengths work throughout their service coverage area, and if not, what it takes to make that happen. They would like to have some knowledge of the ongoing operations and how we make our budgetary and personnel decisions, as simple as a quarterly meeting about here's what the budget, here's the budget I'm handed in to the TA and the selectmen, and if this is approved, this is what happens to your cost. Just a feeling like they're connected to it as opposed to once a year getting handed a bill, or if they have an issue with a dispatcher and never quite finding out how things went on. And then, of course, costing. They're looking for either saving money, like we are, or making sure, as you said, getting a better service within those constant dollars.
Right.
They have a 270-day notice in their agreement, so January 1, 2018 would be the soonest this could be deployed. And as we were kind of wrapping up, I said, is there anything else you want to talk about? And they're sort of like, well, yeah, what about public works? Is there equipment to be shared, regional efforts that we can make? We verified that they basically have the same service profile that we do. Streets, drains, buildings, grounds. They don't do sewer, they don't do water. So their service profile matches our service profile. So based upon that meeting, I am asking your approval to explore the technical feasibility of signal strengths throughout the Hubbardston service area and gain a clearer understanding of their current service needs, call volumes. They have their code red wrapped into their fee. What does their $128,000 a year to Rutland buy them right now? And for that, I would work with the chief and seek grant or other funding for anything other than a nominal local expenditure. I mean, if it costs us $500 to figure it out, I consider that nominal. But otherwise, we'd look for grant funding for signal strengths and studies, some of those other kinds of things. Secondly, we're seeking your approval to explore the potential for regionalizing or sharing our DPW functions, staffing, and or equipment. Doesn't have to be all or nothing, could be one piece. Who knows what makes sense? Do we both need road graders? That's the kind of thing that you look at. We currently have 2 of the community partnership grants, so we're not eligible for the upcoming cycle. And given the deadline, it would be tough. But we were going to suggest that we have Hubbardston seek the grant funding during one of the next 2 funding cycles. There's one October 15th, and I believe January 15th. Please don't hold me to that. But we thought that it would be best to present a fresh face on the grant application. So that is what has come out of that meeting with Hubbardston. Some potential opportunities, subject to whatever you all think about that.
Does it only have to be with one community?
In the discussions with Hubbardson, some other potential partners might arise, and we could look at that.
I mean, we do community policing with Phillipston, why wouldn't we consider sharing some resources with Phillipston for DPW too? I mean, we already are integrated with them, just dispatch too, right? Sorry.
We do dispatch for Phillipston?
Right, we also do community policing with them.
Yeah,
So,
we can
it's
certainly-
just, I'm just asking, does it only have to be with one community? Maybe we could reach out to them too.
Yeah, if Hubbardson's
I think they're
agreeable
great
with that,
ideas.
we could certainly do that. I do find sometimes you have to start with a nucleus and then grow. Sometimes it's easier to add the third or the fourth partner than it is to get the third or fourth partner to the table and come to a common agreement in the beginning.
But if somebody sees some action, something happening, you're more likely to get other people involved.
Everybody likes to come to the party that looks like it's gonna be fun.
That's right.
I would really like to see
Well,
us.
it could be fun because we share a school district with Phillipston too. So it's not
Yes.
like we don't already share.
I would like to see us, well, probably would like to hear from Chief Bennett too, but if we can expand our dispatch services, I think that would be a real plus.
All right.
I'm a little, I wanna say leery, but concerned about, given the age and condition of our highway equipment, how much we can really do. I think that's gonna take a lot of thought and study to come up with something that might be feasible.
I think that, having the right consultant undertake that study for you is
I think the
critical.
possibility is there that some of this big, high-priced equipment that maybe we wouldn't use a whole lot ourselves, maybe we could, for instance, a grader, come to some way of either joint purchasing or an agreement in regards to use, where we could rent it out or even, have one of our people with it. So it's certainly something to look into, but again, we've got to see the details first.
Yes, but we'd have to start somewhere, and under the previous agreement, we may be chatting with Phillipston on some other matters. The chair could
Well, I
approach
think
that at that
certainly,
time.
put it out there, see what they think.
Who do you got identified to the feasibility study? At least for the, say for dispatch at this point with the repeater system that's out there, and, obviously, communication from.
Yeah, those are specialists, and I honestly don't know who works in this
So
territory
is the
right
chief gonna be
now.
head honcho in that?
Yes.
Feasibility study?
Yeah,
Okay.
I would have him.
Okay, as far as the
Honcho,
Public Works
right.
feasibility study concerning the financial aspect as well as utilization of equipment
You bring
and personnel.
You'd bring in someone like Collins, Municipal Resources Incorporated, Jacobs and Associates. You would bring in a firm who's done these kinds of studies.
And like you said, since we got the two grants, not to interrupt you, we're not gonna be eligible for the regionalization grant.
No, I think we'd probably be aggressive trying to
Right.
file for that third one right now. I think having Hubbardston take the lead might be, and A&F may say, no, Templeton, that's fine, go ahead. But I think asking Hubbardston to take the lead might be the better course of action.
And I know that Collins has done a lot of work in the
Yes.
regionalization areas,
Mhm.
so it could be a good resource.
Well, I just wanna see what the funding will be, what the savings, what cost savings would be for the community, and what services that we're gonna be providing, and what services the other communities will be providing to, match our services, and vice versa.
And staff time and budget expenditures would be nominal in the early phases. We won't do anything big. We've got plenty of other time sucks demands. And we'd be back to you if we did get a grant. Obviously, we need to come back to you for your authorization to file and/or accept
Right.
those grants.
Okay.
I say yeah. You just want a general consensus on board.
I think on this, I'll take a motion on this one, so that way, release or update with the feasibility study for both the Public Works as well as the dispatch for the town of Hubbardston. And that way, Carter, you work on that?
Yes.
Okay. All right,
Okay, so moved.
okay, I have a second.
Second.
A motion, a second. Any other discussion? Dave, you have any? No questions?
Nope.
Okay. I see none. John?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. Now, this does not mean we're going anywhere. This just means there's feasibility studies. That's all this means. You know, obviously, the decision-making process, you know, at least at this table, to let the people know that nothing is written in stone. We're just looking at different options to save the community taxpayers' dollars at this point. What's that? Oh, I thought you said, I'm sorry. Dates on November workshop, convention of the communities, committees and boards. Did we come up with a date on that?
Well, what we're, and this is an evolving process. We'll
Right.
hopefully get it all codified by the time we work our way through the budget process. We're asking for the first Monday of November to be a board workshop. We'll review everything that came out of your retreat, prepare a set of goals and objectives for formal adoption at a business meeting,
Okay,
talk about some of the upcoming budget issues, talk about calendar, which do you like best, but we're talking about the first Monday of November
that'll be November
for
7th.
that. Yes, sir.
Not for me.
And then,
Do you have a location?
that would be right in here.
Okay,
Workshop, I think you seemed to like the way it worked the other day, so we'd give up the long, stretched-out approach,
and just circle around.
circle, exactly.
Gotcha.
Exactly. Convention of the committees would be 2 weeks later,
The 21st.
so that on the 7th, you've kind of, what's your approach gonna be, what's the product that you're gonna present, who's gonna take which piece, how you're gonna set all that up.
Yep.
And that would be the 21st, and we don't have a location for that yet. But we need a place that, will accommodate about 50 folks frankly, in a circle, not a stadium, you versus them, us, kind of thing. But same way we do the staff meetings, same way you did the workshop the other night. We think it creates a comfortable,
Can we look at like maybe the Camelot or something like that?
something like that, yeah.
Okay. And that's on
And
the
that will give us
21st?
plenty of time to get those invitations out to everybody,
Okay,
because it's a long list.
it is.
And there was a suggestion, I thought was a good one, I don't remember it, Diane, that might have been you. We wanted to include on that list our elected representatives to our school boards, the Monty Tech
Yep.
and the Narragansett Regional, include them.
That's a great call. It's a great call. Okay, any question with those dates at all?
I can't come the 7th, so I just won't do it. Okay.
Could you be by phone?
No.
No.
I can't,
Okay.
sorry.
That's
I
okay.
already
No,
have a
it's okay.
prior
We
engagement.
could shift it to the 8th, we could shift it
Are
to
you
the
gone the whole
9th.
week, or?
November 8th is election day. I'm
Election
working
day,
the
yeah,
polls.
We could shift it to the 9th, we could shift it to the 31st of October. Is that a Monday, 31st of
Halloween.
October?
That's Halloween. I get my kids.
Halloween.
go-
We
Oh,
could perhaps shift it a few days either side, once I could see what works.
You wanna do the 9th?
Does that work for you, Don?
The 9th, which is
Does
a
that work
Wednesday?
for you, Don?
It does.
9th is fine with me.
Nothing on the ninth.
All right.
You good with the
It's
9th?
okay.
Are you good with the 9th? The 9th? Can we lock that in?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. So 9 November.
It just puts a little more pressure on me to be more prepared on the 9th.
Yes, it does.
So I don't have a lot of work to do for your business meeting the next week, the 14th. But that would work fine.
All right. You just have to work a little bit overtime, that's all. He doesn't work overtime.
I don't get evening bicycling or kayaking in this time of year, so.
Understood.
It's fine. Shall we say 6:30 for both of these?
Yes.
Both, what are we talking both?
For the workshop on November 9th and November 21st, the all-in committee meeting.
Okay.
And location for the all-in committee meeting is to be determined.
Yes.
But our workshop will be here at Town Hall at 6:30 on November 9th. Okay.
9th and the 21st.
Oh, right, Roger. Then obviously in between those dates,
I'll put the
we
date
have
set an alarm.
the 14th and the 20th is a Board of Selectmen meeting.
Yes.
Yep.
The idea is that work products we discuss on the 9th, I'll get packaged up for the 14th
Yep.
for formal votes. Then we're off to the races for budget and the committee,
Excellent.
the all
Sounds
boards
good.
meeting.
Okay, what's next here? Action on codification of ordinances. That was the organization that came in and did that presentation a few months back that, Diane, you had an option to go on the computer and see a little bit, so did I. They're the ones that look at the bylaws. It takes some time, I think almost a year to get it all set in stone and online and working.
2 years based on the schedule.
It could be potential after 2 years. That's, I mean, if they have more bylaws like in a city or versus a small town, I mean, obviously they have to, because a lot of our bylaws conflict with some of the mass general laws. So we want to make sure that that gets fixed, as people have already pointed out to us, as our other constituents.
I'm sorry I missed their presentation. One concern I have, though, because I think this is a great idea,
Mhm.
and I do think we need to do it. But based on this schedule, we would have nearly $3,000 to pay in the current fiscal year. Do we have that?
$3,000 or
Yeah,
Well-
because we'd have to pay the 1,000 in September of this year, and then another 2,000 in January or so of next year.
Right.
And both of those payments would fall into this fiscal year.
They would.
So we have 3,000 then worth of payments in this fiscal year
Mhm.
that are currently not budgeted or appropriated. So do we think we'd be able
It's
to come up
always
with that money?
It's always difficult to read the tea leaves this early on in the year.
Yeah.
But the town clerk, I forget what I told you a week or two ago in my weekly, I thought that she could find about $2,000 altogether. Depending upon, what happens with the elections, there may be some dollars in there. And then it would be perfectly appropriate to tap into legal.
Mhm.
So I think that, we've got some different resources we can reach. Could something happen to that prediction between now and June 30th? Of course it could. But I do think that this is something we could probably, and the town clerk is most anxious, so we would charge her with
finding the money?
Well,
Making her own budget work.
well, shepherding the various budgets to try
Yes.
to make all this work.
This is bringing us into the 20th century, not the
Yep.
21st, but at least the 20th.
Yep,
Um,
absolutely.
I think it's important for the people. It's a little money of taxpayer dollars that has to be spent, but I think this is money that's well spent, well organized, well thought. The process is there. And then the product that the town's gonna receive, on an annual basis, I think is something that is, it's something that they can touch, they can see. It's hard enough when you try to sell stuff that you can't see and try to, tell the taxpayers, hey, this is what this is doing, this is what that's doing. They don't know that. They can't see it, they can't touch it. But if they can click on their computer at home and say, oh, I know where that went, it went right here. And I know where the bylaws are because they're right here. And they can validate the bylaws and they can see what we're doing and hopefully understand that how the process works. That was my thought process. And I thought it was, again, we're trying to, bring the town up a little bit to a level where, there's literally transparency across the board. Like nothing is hidden, from bylaws to dollars to taxes to you name it, it's all in there. It's like Pregu, as far as I'm concerned, and it's just good for the people.
Yeah, and just for my own edification, because I wasn't able to
Yep.
see their presentation. During this process, not only are they gonna make it visible on a website and accessible and searchable, but they're gonna also actually look at them, figure out which ones need to be rewritten, which
Oh, yeah.
ones should be eliminated,
Yep.
which ones are in conflict with one
Yes.
another,
Yes.
and then present all of that information to go to town floor to vote.
Yes,
To remove, add, change.
exactly.
Yep.
It all
Okay.
starts with that legal review of everything you've done, every state statute you've accepted.
Right.
Piece of special legislation. Yes.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is great, and, I mean, it's not extraordinarily expensive, I was just concerned of the 3,000 that would have to get used this year.
Right, no, I got you. I mean,
Because
obviously,
the
that's-
future years, we can appropriate those.
yeah, we're gonna be looking forward for that as well.
So,
I mean,
I think this is a great idea.
And
We
you've
definitely
had
need to do it.
4 elections this year, and next year you have 1 election. So you always get in that down year, you've always got that,
got
rather
cushion.
than taking your budget down here, and then the next year it has to hop back up. This is as good a time as any to do it, timing-wise.
Right.
I make a motion to move forward with the codification of ordinances with, I forget the name of the company, sorry. Do you remember the name of the company? It doesn't say that on here.
They were based out of New York. Shoot, I just lost my train of thought.
Oh, I believe it's Unicode, if I remember correctly. It's not in the email.
When did she come?
Unicode?
I think it is Unicode.
Okay, with Unicode, with this, within 30 days, just of the signing of the contract, and then with 80 days of submission of the organizational analysis. Actually moving forward the whole thing, but just to make sure that we can fund those 2 things.
Yeah, I'll second that.
And authorization of the chair to sign the contract.
Oh, and authorization for the chairman of the board to sign the contract. Thanks, Carter.
Still second.
I have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? I see none. John?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
And I vote yes as well. This is gonna be a great thing moving forward. Last thing on the agenda, again, is something I put on there, was the ClearDuff.com. It's that program that was also presented to us a couple weeks ago. It's kind of similar to what the codification looks like, but it's actually different because it breaks all the monies down, to the penny. And it's not, it's information, some of the information is what the town provides, but mainly it's the information that the Department of Revenue provides. So when both these programs, you don't need to search for them, they're gonna be actually on the town's webpage as a link. So you push on the town's webpage, you push the link, and poof, there it comes, kinda like what Athol did, which was a great source of information that they provided. And this talks about mainly the financial piece, but it breaks it down to like the education school piece, where the money is broken down to, where all tax dollars go. Even breaks down all the way down to the individual taxpayer in the single household, where his tax dollars broken down, if he pays $2,000, $3,000 a year, where all those tax dollars are broken down to what sections they go into. And again, this is all codified by the Department of Revenue, as well as the treasurer, as well as the accounting. And again, it's another document or another program that, again, builds transparency and obviously moves us more towards the 20th century. Now, obviously, there is a cost for that program as well, which is an annual cost of $3,500. As you can see, based on the information that was being provided. And then the next question is, do we set this up for this year, or do we wait until 2018 and then have funds allocated potentially for this to set up sometime next year? I'm hoping that we can potentially find the funds to initiate this year. I'm hoping with moving some potential funds around, such as, any other funds that are out there, Kelly?
Just to state, the information they're getting from the DOR is from what has been filed through our gateway system. For the last several years, our information is not correct.
Mm-hmm.
It's up to you, I would wait a year at least, because then that will clear some of those prior years, so that when we have more updated information that's current and correct, it will be, more of a good tool.
Right.
That's an accurate tool to use. That would just be my opinion but I have looked at that.
What's your opinion?
I love it. I think it's a fabulous tool, and it would be wonderful for the town. But I think for money spent, we should wait for a year to do
Okay.
that.
Right?
I
That's
like,
great.
I like the Clear.gov too, to a certain degree. When I was watching, because I look at numbers all the time, it wasn't accurate. What was there, not our median
No.
price, and I understand that I think going with the codification is the better thing, and there are other things on that website that can be used. I think I've said to Holly before, I'm not thrilled with our current website. I see other towns that utilize theirs much more. There are links out. You can get that information right off the DOR. You don't need somebody else to be a middleman to, go through that. That's just me. I agree. This year's not the year,
No.
in my opinion, to do that. I think that if there were some other companies, if you were, going to look at something, we should probably look at more than one company who does this. I don't think that they're the only one. I would love to see us a little bit more settled. I would like to see what the Unicode can do with, I saw that you can put your minutes out there. They're completely searchable. I think that there's other ways. I would like to see what their costs are before we move ahead with this. I did like all that information. It's just at the moment it kind of scares me because it's not accurate, I think.
Right.
So,
And I like that, like Kelly said, as far as the numbers, they've been off since 13, so when they were showing
Yeah.
14.
Just
I
don't wanna put
I don't know
out,
where they were pulling numbers
like,
from,
so,
but.
I just was like,
um,
that can't be right. So, I think this should just be, for me, my opinion, to be put on hold as a future
Mhm.
and to just say, oh yeah, we definitely, and I would like to see if there are other companies that do that, or maybe more, what does Unicode do and what else could we utilize them for,
Okay.
to not have so many places
Would you-
to go.
Would you mind if I had honcho that? If I looked
You
at
can
that for
head
you?
honcho wherever you
No.
like.
No, I just think it's important as
You
far
wanna
as.
keep researching, you go
Yeah,
right ahead.
exactly. I want to be able to make sure. Again, it's
My head's
accurate
already
data.
full, thank you.
I just want to make
those are
sure.
only my opinions, I don't know
No,
what
I think
anybody
that's
else
right.
thinks,
I'm-
so.
obviously we have to-
$3,500, I would rather spend the money, making sure that our bylaws are correct, and that was definitely,
Mhm.
what I had said before, during my last, year in office,
Right, and I think.
that I wanted to do.
As Kelly's, has, educated and, intelligently put, obviously now is probably not the most appropriate time based on
Yeah,
the
where we're
numbers
at,
and
yeah,
where we're
this
at
would
at
be
this point
confusing.
as far as, people, et cetera, until maybe we get a handle on the numbers, hopefully come, this time, hopefully next year, we should be looking pretty solid, I'm
But I
hoping.
think if we're looking forward at those workshops and like a game plan, it should definitely be a goal to have to make sure that, maybe there is just one place for the town to go. They shouldn't have to necessarily, or at least just links to go to, like, look at this, look at that.
And that's the other thing that should, obviously, another goal would probably, inflect, with the, we don't have an IT guy per se, we have Doug,
We
who
have
does a
Doug.
great job, by the way. He just hooked up my printer. Maybe we, because I think Holly's been doing a great job on the webpage, changing things, modifying certain things, and putting some links on there, putting things up there to be more transparent, such as contracts, et
Oh,
cetera.
absolutely.
But I think, we don't have like an IT specialist to come in to.
Well, I
to
love the
revamp.
information that's put out there. I didn't mean to say it that way, Holly.
No,
I
no.
just- The website
No,
itself
no.
sometimes isn't very user-friendly.
Right.
You gotta go here, you gotta go, I just think the Unicode seems like might be a little bit better to put some things. I just would rather
Well, that would just be our
explore
link.
that
Yeah.
option than just running into something else at the
No,
same time. And
understood.
it costs the taxpayer money.
It does, it does,
So,
it does. No, I understand completely.
yeah.
It does, there's a lot of time involved, a lot of man hours.
Yeah.
Okay, so we could put that off and maybe at the next meeting, yes.
I was gonna say, so at the workshop, we're gonna take all those things that Jeff, you'd had some specific ones
Right.
for the coming year.
Yep.
Then you had others for the out years.
Mhm.
Tonight, you've definitely added because it's not just enough to add a goal, but to have an end date. So we've added the codification tonight.
Mhm.
Would you like me to add, sort of a website freshening / ClearGov as one, and we can kind of look at what year that could drop into?
Absolutely, that'd be great,
Okay.
that would be great. Because again, when others looking at tomorrow, we're looking at a year,
Yeah.
3, 5 years from now as far
Yes.
as that goes. All right, great, that's awesome. Action on public records policy, continue from last meeting. I don't think there
I
was,
thought there were just supposed to be
There was-
some changes, but I
there
didn't
was some
see
mi-
any changes. I don't think there was anything.
No.
big, But I haven't seen any.
no, the only thing that no, everything was right on.
Just a couple of things that needed to be changed, I thought, but I didn't get an update. Did you get an update? Did I just not,
No, I
yeah, we
didn't
just
see
need an
that.
update in order to vote it. Or did we vote it? And I don't remember.
No, I mean, we would have
I just
voted it
read
if
the
there weren't
minutes.
any changes, so there must have been
There was,
something that we discussed as changes.
I think it was the 5 cents.
Nope. Let me see, when was that? Work in, no. I did not make any notes to myself, hold on. 12.
I actually wanted to suggest.
I
we
thought it
wait
was
till
just one
January
thing
1st.
that had to be fixed
I thought we should wait till January first, so the new law
for the new,
goes into
okay.
effect. Just be maybe easier. I could edit it for that.
So on the 12th meeting, in the minutes, it says that after discussion and questions whether policy really needs to be in place, it was tabled. That was on the 12th, and
Yeah,
on
we
the 20th.
definitely said something
Six.
else.
Discussion and suggestions were given, continued to next meeting, is what we said on the 28th.
Yeah,
And
the
then-
26th,
We're
I
still
had
at that
new
point.
ones.
So that was not that.
So we should just wait until the law takes effect.
January 1st,
But it, yeah,
then we can pretty much incorporate the entire town at that point. Under one individual jurisdiction as far as how FOIA requests are gonna move.
the public records person?
Mm-hmm.
I thought that was in Holly's job
I
description,
actually-
or it was
I
in
actually
that, it
talked
was
to
in
town
one of them.
council about that. There were some questions on light and water records, and I talked to town council about it, and they stated that even with the new law, we should be able to designate me for the town in general,
Mhm.
and
other
John
people.
Driscoll as the light and water, because they are considered separate for that type of thing, for public records. So we could designate two.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm sure they already have their own policy.
We already know what the changes in the law are gonna be though, so can we get like an updated policy for the next meeting that's accurate and it names like whatever? And we just vote that, so it'll be ready for January 1st, cause I mean, I think it's all out there, I didn't look at, what's out there on the website at the moment, cause there was some
I
conflicting.
think he took them off.
It's nothing.
She took 'em off.
Okay, fine, so, yeah, okay. So I think if we could just, I don't think there were many changes, I
No.
think it was just, but I'd rather have it reflect.
I mean, the concern was, you know, who's
just
filling out the
correct.
paperwork, who's doing this, and
Well,
obviously it's more of an individual, it's more of a, employee or, you know, the employee's gotta, you know, understand the policies set in place, it's not so much the townspeople.
So we can just do that, Holly,
And,
and then we'll just vote at the next meeting.
sounds good. And in the action on the social media policy, which I know you saw, I know was kind of robust.
Robust.
I think that would be the best word to use. I mean, I wanted to make sure.
Cumbersome was more what I was thinking,
Well, I
but,
want to make sure all the Ts were crossed and all the Is were dotted. I want to make sure every aspect was covered for the employee to understand and know what that social media policy, which it covered, you know, employees, part-time, full-time, and members of boards and committees would be also under the same social media policy. I did look at the couple other towns, and some were smaller, some had like 2-3 pages versus the 6
just
pages.
keep it simple.
I mean, I can re-engage that, if you'd like.
Well, I just asked Steve, I just didn't have time to talk to him, because I think that there are some, when I read it again from your perspective, there are some things that, you know, they would probably have an issue with. So I would like to see what Steve's notes are, and I don't, maybe he's just send those to Holly. I asked him if we could actually meet, because I just would like somebody to bounce some ideas off of, so.
Did you end up looking at that, Steve?
I've looked at it, I've made some notes. I've asked the cable committee members to
Mhm.
comment on it, and I know a couple of them would like to meet as a group.
Okay.
And we're hoping to have a meeting next week, so
Okay.
maybe by your next meeting, we can have comments, or
Yeah,
Okay.
I'd still like to get
I,
together.
I think this may be something that you may want to discuss separately or outside the meeting first. Try
Okay.
to- And I think the spirit of the agreement, I think in general is fine, but I think that there are some areas where we're establishing social media sites with the TV station that
Mhm.
we may have concerns with.
Understood. No, that's why it was a great call by Diane to, I mean, why you didn't get it to begin with is beyond me. But I'm glad you have it now, and obviously we'll table that again. We'll see you probably at the next meeting with some notes concerning that.
Yes.
Okay, and then obviously we'll meet at another time.
I think any notes that you do have, if you have them ahead of time and you can get them to Holly and she can get them to us, I
Mhm.
would, again, I would like to meet with you. I have some other,
Okay.
again, just to be able to bounce some ideas off of. I think that most companies have social media policies, but for their employees,
Yes.
I still am taking exception to, I'm not running me personally, I will not speak for anyone else, I'm not running the town Facebook page, I'm not running so I just am still struggling with that myself.
Okay.
I know no one should disparage other people, and no one should, but again, the people I talk to, it's that whole freedom of speech. So,
Mhm. No, I got
that's
you.
all.
Okay.
But yeah, if we could see your notes ahead of time, that would be
Could
awesome.
I get you some preliminary thoughts by late this week or early next week?
That'd be
And
wonderful.
Yep.
then when we meet as a committee, when the cable committee meets, we may have
Other-
something more solid.
Okay, that'd be
Yeah, if you
great.
can just send everything to Holly,
Okay.
then she can disperse it to us, that would be good.
Okay,
Awesome.
thank you.
No, thanks, Steve, I appreciate
Sorry
that.
for the delay.
No, it's okay. Thanks for the input.
It's a work in progress.
Well, yeah, this is, I mean,
It's robust.
you know, Rome wasn't built in a day, one day at a time. Any citizen issues? Any citizen issues at this time? Yes, Mr. Spring.
I'd like, first of all, it's a concern and also an issue, but I'd like to commend the board for taking the initiative and appointing people on to a committee. Each of you had gone out and sought somebody. I think that's progress. My concern is this. We have a bylaw that, for the last 5 years, has been ignored. And for the most portion of the time, most of you have been on, especially the last couple of years. We have a capital planning committee
Mhm.
that this board, by bylaw, is supposed to appoint somebody. It has not for the last 5 years.
Okay.
Doug's on that. Doug's
That
our-
has caused,
Doug's our-
that has caused a problem of lack of a quorum, number one, of not having that individual.
Okay.
Of course, I think you should also reach out, because there's an issue with members from other boards and committees.
Mhm.
As an example, the planning board, I think that the select board should reach out to the planning board and see what the issue is with why their particular individual has not been able to come for the last 5 years. In fact, I think he's only attended, I would say, about 3 or 4 meetings in total. You can, your member, your selectman member can verify this also. I mean, it's difficult enough to take and end up having, going through the process without having a quorum. The other portion of the last couple of years is that you've got to reach out to your school committee and see if they can end up getting somebody. The first couple of years, they had somebody, and it worked. At least we had a quorum the first couple of years. I mean,
Are
to
we still
not
talking
have
about the-
somebody on the capital planning, there's 5 members here. Between the 5 of you, you should be able to come up with one. You came up, each of you, with 1 member for a committee. I mean, I thought that was good, but I mean, let's follow the bylaws, guys. I mean,
Well,
Again, the
one of the things
we
that-
just had that discussion.
Excuse me, I'm
at the
talking.
Hey,
workshop.
one second, whoa, 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 one second,
You're
one
not running the
second.
meeting, he is.
One second. 1 second.
Okay.
1 second.
I
Go
just
ahead,
wanted to
Diane.
clarify that we did just discuss that at the workshop that
Yes,
we
you
were
did.
at, and that we recognize that we do not have and cannot. And I went out and I asked several people, and some were on and their answer was they don't have time. So where do we? That's just where I went with that, but it wasn't on the agenda, so I wasn't going to discuss that. But
Okay,
and it's true we don't have. We recognize that.
okay, go
And it's
ahead,
not
John.
like we can go and say, advisory board, we're appointing this person.
Yeah.
We can't
Well, the
make that
advisory board
decision
can't.
for your board, just as we can't go to the planning board and say, we're putting
That's
X,
not what
Y,
I'm,
Z.
that's not what I'm saying is to take and reach out to them, to take and end up seeing if that individual cannot attend, to see if they have another member that can. The same thing with the school committee. The only two people that have been constant on this is a select person and the advisory board. You can't operate, it's not a quorum.
I understand what you're
I
saying.
mean, and one of the things I heard at the workshop, and I agree with it, is that taking on that by the selectmen is not the right thing. You have enough in your agendas, and I heard that at your workshop, is that we're too busy, we're struggling with a large agenda already. You don't want to take that on. This committee's important enough to end up having as a bylaw, we should be able to end up getting enough people on it. Diane, one person, and thank you for going out and seeing somebody, but there is 4 other members that maybe can come up with one person. That's what I'm thinking, is that it's that important, and that function brings to you what the recommendations are, regardless of the funding source. They bring those recommendations to you to be put on
I got you.
to the warrant. That's an important function, guys.
It is.
So-
Thank you, Will. Did you have something, John?
Well, if it hasn't been working for 5 years, obviously the bylaw isn't working. We need to change the bylaw and pick a group of individuals, and not necessarily representatives of any board, but people who are willing and committed to putting the time into doing the job.
Right.
I think it's important for a member of the Board of Selectmen to be on the Capital Planning Committee. I think it's very important for a member of the Advisory Board to be on the Capital Planning Committee. I think that we just have not been able to, I have to go backwards in my brain, I'm sorry, but when I first came back to town and was coming to town meetings, I thought we had a full advisory board, and then we had to change the number because people weren't coming, and then we had, so it happens, it's like ebb and flow of where people are at. And I did go out, and I didn't ask just one person, I asked several, and they just don't have the time. So, you know, it's just, okay, so who is supposed to make up the capital planning committee, and who can we ask?
Well, based on the bylaw?
Yeah, I just don't remember, I'm sorry. I probably should have
We're
that right off the
hampered,
top of my head.
We're
but I
hamstrung
don't.
by the bylaw. We need to change the bylaw so that we can open it up to a bigger pool of people.
Well, we're gonna go through the codification process, and
Yes.
we just said to the advisory board, who came 2 weeks ago, that we were not going to accept their warrant articles because we thought that we were going to do this. So, Will, do you have that bylaw in front of you by chance?
No, I
Because you're
don't.
always so good about that.
No,
I
no,
just
I don't.
can't.
Okay.
I just think
But
that it is important, we have talked about that before on the board, and we should, if Doug and Kate can't do it, and they can't make any recommendations, so whatever the makeup of that board's supposed to be, if we found our 5 people for a screening, then
We can
I
find
think each
couple
one of us
people.
should go out and ask a few people.
That's
and
right.
Will's absolutely right,
Yep.
so we
I
should
agree.
have that.
I agree, Will.
It's a
The five
very
members-
critical committee.
Just to clarify, the 5 members, so
Sorry.
one from the advisory board, one for the select board. That's been a constant.
Yeah.
One from the school committee. The first couple of years, we had somebody. Why we don't have one now, I don't know, but that's why I said you need to reach out to them to find out
Laurie
why.
Masson available?
The other
I'll
is
reach out to them again.
the other is the planning board. Is their member, I think he only came 3 or 4 meetings. In the first couple of years, we had this one school committee member, so we did have a quorum. I mean, when they had nominated somebody, we did have a quorum. And the last one is just somebody from the community. That has never been filled. And of course, ex officio is either the accountant or the town administrator, but I mean, that's ex officio.
I got you.
It's not necessarily
Oh,
a
you would
voting
love
member.
to do that,
So you
wouldn't
have
you?
5 members.
I got you. Kelly, did you have something to add?
Actually,
Well, I think that a lot of the bylaw problems is because things have not been looked at. Things have not, that's the whole purpose of hiring this company.
That's right.
To try to clean all this stuff up. And I think before we need to, have all of these uproars and issues over bylaws, we need to hire them and give them a chance to do their job. That's what we're paying them this money to do. And, I mean, we understand that things have not worked here. It's been that way now for quite a few years. But we have to let things drop and go and move forward and stop looking back. That's just what I wanted to say.
Thank you so much, Kelly, for that, and that's so true. I mean, obviously, you can't, you learn from the past, but you have to move forward and grow and
Can we
do bigger and better
post on
things.
the website for a community at-large member for the capital planning committee, and I'll reach out to the entire school committee, or at least the chairman again, and just say, do you have someone? I mean, I definitely have in my head a few people who have expressed interest before. I don't know if they're still available for a community at large, but I will certainly ask.
You said
And if
planning
you
board
can
as
do
well,
the
right?
planning board,
That's
then-
correct.
Yeah, I can.
There is a member
The
that's
committees have to vote.
that's been
What
identified,
committee?
If it's
but
school committee,
the
they have to
attendance,
vote to-
for whatever reason,
Right.
I don't
At
know if
least
it's
I
a
can ask,
conflict or
yeah.
whatever. Maybe that member they can end up being changed by their board to another member that can attend.
They do, those boards do
I
have
mean,
to,
it-
they'll
it
have to
ju-
vote, but we have to.
Right, it may be just a conflict
to-
for that individual, I don't know.
Okay, I'll talk to the planning board, and I'll work that out, but thanks for bringing that up, Will. Any other things from the citizen issues? I see none. Board members, you have anything to add?
I was
Or
just
staff?
gonna comment that the capital planning didn't meet last week and that we didn't have a quorum again, but we, have outlined a schedule. We're gonna still, meet with the departments, hear what the departments have. We'll make sure that the plan is updated and, hopefully have a quorum through the year and be able to make recommendations, so.
Okay.
But the process is in underway.
You're doing a great job, Doug.
I just want to say that I thought it was really nice. It was a great idea to do the workshop, and I thought it was very productive, and to be able to sit down and set goals. And from the survey that was sent out to each of us separately, in my mind, it solidified that we don't talk to each other, but that, there are some things that are definitely prioritized in our own head, and we're very much on the same page. Public safety, finance, and I forget what the third one was. But the what? Thank you, highway. So those three things are definitely at the top of mind at the moment. So I thought it was excited to do them again.
Great, and obviously more workshops to follow, because, when you put good minds together, hopefully we can come up with great products. Doug, you have anything?
Coming on the IT.
Oh, the IT thing, yes. So we had the initial call with the Rudders group on the IT assessment. Basically, what this assessment is, it's an assessment of business continuity, disaster recovery. So basically, they're going to assess our systems compared against a industry standard of where you should be. So it's going to be, this is where you should be, this is where you're at, are you good, bad, or on track? We'll fall into the bad category, but it's not really an assessment to build a roadmap or to provide direction as to, what we should implement or how we should implement. But it was a good meeting. They provided us a questionnaire. I've answered a lot of the questionnaire as best I can. I'm sure Harley and Carter and the other department heads will have some additional information that they can put into the questions I wasn't able to answer. They're coming on, is it,
I'll have to look, I've forgotten,
yeah.
I'm sorry. Early November.
Early November, yeah.
That's,
Okay.
to do they'll be on site for like a half a day doing on-site interviews.
Just a reminder to people that we have a special town meeting coming up, and we have a very important issue that everyone who's concerned with our schools, with the future of our town needs to be there.
Well said. Well said. All right. Well, thank you all. Can I have a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Are we,
No, I don't need one, that's why I put it down as a
Nope.
potential.
Nope. I'm good.
second?
Okay, a motion, a second. Any other discussion? I see none. John?
Yes.
Diane?
Yes.
Doug?
Yes.
And I vote yes again. Thank you all for coming.